said. Well said. Thank you very much, everybody. Good morning. It's a great honour to be here. As you can see, or rather, as you can hear, the Minister for Health has a stinking cold. And I would also like to tell you, Mr. Inverdale, that no, I didn't go to the gym this morning, but I do try and go twice a week. It's invariably only once a week. I suddenly realised this, actually. Sport's been an absolute part of my life. You know, sometimes you don't realise this stuff until you get to my age. And then you get the great honour of being appointed to the position which I'm in. And I'm that classic, you know, I'm 55, so I'm of a certain generation, and now obviously of a certain age, where I played a lot of sport at school, and it does set down a pattern of behaviour. And it does so much good for you at the time, but as I say, it's a pattern of behaviour that hopefully lasts all the way through your life. I wobbled off a bit in my 20s, my 30s, and indeed my 40s. I did a bit of sailing, I did a bit of skiing, sometimes I'd go walking. I was a reasonably good mother because I'd make my children walk to school. That was very simple. I just refused to take them to school, so they had no alternative. And I would encourage them to walk home from school, and we lived in a city. And we would walk round our city. I mean, you can walk out in the countryside, of course, as I now do in my own constituency. I'm very near to Derbyshire, with the beautiful walks in Derbyshire, and I spend a lot of time with my other half in Charnwood Forest. But you can also walk in cities. You can walk, hell, you can walk anywhere, and it can be a great experience. But I was undoubtedly becoming a great couch potato because I loved watching sport, and I would watch a lot of sport, not just by going to the city ground or indeed going to Meadow Lane and watching football, but I'd watch a lot on the television. And so about 3 or 4 years ago, around about the time that I stopped smoking, and I'm very upfront about these things, I stopped smoking, I also started to do a lot more physical activity, realising the huge benefits that it would have for me. And it's a message which I absolutely get, and it's a message I'm very happy to take in any way that I can to the whole population. I just should say, though, one of the downsides, of course, of being a Minister of Health is that I went to my first Tigers, so I go and watch Leicester Tigers. So I went to my first Tigers match, and my other half, because a gang of us go, and invariably, well, in fact, always, there are lots of, we eat a lot of sweets. And I suddenly sat there, and my other half went off for the usual pint of lager. And he said, "Do you want a pint?" And I went, "I don't think I can, actually." Because if anybody saw me sitting here with a pint of lager, eating jelly babies, it might not give out the right message. So I decided not to. But moving on to much more serious things, I do want to tell you about the government's plans for public health. But I'd like to welcome very much David's announcement about the creation of ukactive. I think it's a wonderful idea. I'm pleased to see a widening of the remit to encompass as many organisations as possible, all with an interest in getting more people more active more often. It's a great slogan, and I love it. And I welcome the rebranding and the recognition that we need to give a wide spectrum of stakeholders to make sure that they influence people's lifestyle choices, as we call them, and improve outcomes. In other words, getting everybody involved in more active sport, getting everybody healthier. And we all know the benefits of being healthy. I'm pleased to see that you're out of the blocks already with the development of SPOGO as a nationwide digital choose and book system for sport and active recreation, and I'm pleased to hear that it's going well already. It was indeed an amazing summer of sport, and I don't think, and as John's already indicated, and indeed other speakers, Fred and David, that there really hasn't been a better time to promote the benefits of being active. But we really do need now to take up that wonderful golden opportunity that the Olympic and Paralympic Games provided to us. I don't know about you, but I certainly was acutely aware of a real feel-good factor that was generated by the Games throughout the nation. But, as John has quite rightly identified, there's a real danger that that enthusiasm can quickly tail off. And of course, I think it's fair to say we may never get an opportunity like it. So we have all of us, and that obviously includes government, got to exploit it to the full. I thought there were some very good, encouraging early signs. A recent report by Sky and British Cycling that showed a dramatic increase in cycling and the purchases of bikes on the back of Team GB's cycling success at London 2012. It's a promising start, but the real challenge is how we turn a surge of enthusiasm into sustained changes of behaviour. This government is committed to delivering a lasting health legacy, and I like the emphasis that Fred put on that, a health legacy from the London 2012 Games. The Prime Minister is determined that we are able to look back and say that hosting the Games made a lasting difference to people's lives, to the health of this nation. After all, as you will know, it's one of the main reasons why London's bid was successful. We need now your help in delivering that ambition. Because as you know, government working alone cannot achieve it. We all have a role to play in achieving improved public health outcomes. For example, organisations like many of you in this room, working with your local communities, can engage people in ways that, frankly, government simply can't. Commercial organisations can use their marketing expertise to influence people's purchasing habits. And there's no reason why that expertise should not be harnessed to influence people's wider lifestyle choices, including promoting the benefits of being physically active. And that's why I welcome the opportunity to be able to work in partnership with ukactive to harness the knowledge and expertise that such a wide range of organisations, public and private, in delivering a lasting health legacy from the Games. Engaging the widest possible range of organisations in getting people active is something we're already championing through the Public Health Responsibility Deal. Now, I'll be quite frank with you, I wasn't fully au fait with the Responsibility Deal. And in the 2 months that since my appointment, I've got to know it well. And it is the most remarkable idea, and already we are seeing a real achievement. And I just want to pay tribute to Fred for all his efforts, and each and every one of you who has signed up to the Responsibility Deal. And if you haven't signed up, please do. Obviously, you can speak to Fred about it and the great benefits, not just to you, but obviously also to our communities. And one of the things that we are hoping to do is to roll it out at a local level. So it doesn't matter what size of business or operation or organisation you may be, there's a real role that you can play in the Responsibility Deal, both nationally and locally. As I say, Fred has led the Physical Activity Network with huge enthusiasm and a commitment that's already meant that 240 partners have signed up, including many high-profile businesses. It's beginning to make a difference, as I say, and there are some exciting projects on the go, such as GlaxoSmithKline's project Your Personal Best, which promotes physical activity for people over 55 with long-term health conditions. And I know Fred's determined to achieve maximum reach and impact and has an ambition to sign up 1,000 partners. So, as I say, some of you here already are partners, and I hope many more of you will join this growing movement. Now, increasing physical activity, reducing obesity, and realising the associated public health gains is a bit like turning around an extremely large oil tanker. We've got to recognise there's no quick fix and there's no silver bullet. And we're all acutely aware of the scale of the challenge. Physical inactivity costs the NHS over £1 billion a year and 8.3 billion to the economy as a whole. We now rightly refer to physical inactivity as a silent killer. It's the 4th biggest cause of avoidable deaths worldwide. To put this into focus, I'd like to read out a few quotes, if I may, from a Lancet report on physical activity published in July of this year. Physical inactivity should be appropriately described as a pandemic with far-reaching health, economic, environmental and social consequences. And the Lancet went on to say, inactivity causes 9% of premature mortality, which is equal to the same number of deaths as tobacco. It's a stark and disturbing message. Yet most people know that being physically active is hugely beneficial for their own health. As a previous chief medical officer said, if a medication existed which had a similar effect to physical activity, it would be regarded as a wonder drug or a miracle cure. So, we need to face this challenge head on, and in doing so, I see our collective responsibility as threefold. Firstly, we need to ensure that people better understand the benefits of physical activity and how being regularly active benefits their health and well-being in so many ways. And I just want to put into that, it also, of course, improves people's mental well-being, their mental health. And that's an area which I'd like to see a lot more work done on. Secondly, deploying a range of approaches and working imaginatively to change people's behaviour, particularly the least active groups in society. And they are often the most difficult groups really to get into and change their patterns of behaviour. Thirdly, ensuring that people have a range of opportunities to be active in a way that appeals to them, responding to people's needs to provide a mixed economy of physical activity opportunities, especially for some of the least active groups. Of course, government has a role to play in ensuring that we create the right climate for change and an effective delivery infrastructure. We are now only 5 months away from a major landmark with responsibility for public health returning to local authorities in April of next year. So for the first time in nearly 40 years, local government, local services, local communities will be able to work seamlessly together to improve our public health. Local authorities will have the freedom and responsibility to tailor services to meet local needs, supported by a ring-fenced public health budget. Health, transport, leisure, planning will all be under one roof to ensure a joined-up approach to making communities healthier. And it's underpinned by a national outcomes framework to ensure effort is focused where the biggest gains can be made. Public Health England will provide strategic leadership through developing evidence-based models that make the case for investment in public health. And as the Chief Executive Designate, Duncan Soubry, said recently, evidence that is at the fingertips of elected members who are making the crucial decisions. I firmly believe that improvements will only be achieved if elected members pick up the baton and get on and deliver the improvements and changes we also want. So, John, we should take some encouragement. I mean, you saw a very, if I may say, bad example of a local councillor who didn't get it. The Games came along and they did get it. It's going to be patchy, I accept that. There will be some councillors who perhaps need a little bit more persuading than others. But in time, I think they will get it, and certainly PHE will make sure that they are driven to get it. All of that will be put in place. But I think as all these changes come into fruition, and local councillors actually see that they have a real role to play, they will indeed want to play that role in making us all healthier. Because improving public health is an absolute priority for this government. And it must be a high priority, not just at national government, but as I say, at local government and local level as well. It needs to be high on the agenda of elected members. I want to see public health featuring prominently in local election manifestos in next year's May elections for the county council and some of the unitary authorities as well. And when we have those messages on the leaflets of the people that are standing for election, talking about what they want to achieve for the health of their local communities, we can begin to take heart that this message and this work is really coming to fruition. Local health and wellbeing boards will be the forum for local authorities, the NHS, Health Watch, communities and wider partners to come together to shape local health and wellbeing strategies. They'll have a duty to encourage integrated working between commissioners of services across health, social care, public health and children's services. They will strengthen local democratic accountability for public health and increase the influence of local people over the services that they use. Many of you here today, of course, are providers of those services. Most local areas are already working with key stakeholders to agree how they can work together to make the biggest difference to local people. And if you've not already done so, I urge you all to engage in these discussions to ensure that sport and physical activity has its rightful place at the table in shaping local services. You all have local councillors. You all have local councils with chief executive officers, with directors of public health. And I hope you will all engage with them, get onto them, make them understand why this work is so important and the very real role that you can play in this changing world. I just want to take the moment to say a few words about how we're promoting participation in sport and physical activity within schools. This, as we all know, is such a hugely important area of work. One thing I firmly believe is the urgent need to ingrain healthy behaviours in children and young people for all the reasons that John effectively gave in the example that he told us about. We must ensure that all children have the opportunity to engage in sport and physical activity. I just want to also make it clear at this point that there is now a statutory duty to make sure that we reduce health inequalities. And we are, if we're really blunt and honest about it, I know when I go into my constituency, although I know all my schools, I actually don't need to know the demography of those schools before I go in, because I know the demography as soon as I look at the children. And we are in the most perverse situation, if we're really frank about it now, where the children from the most deprived backgrounds, some of the most poorest backgrounds, are the children who are actually the most overweight. And it's the children who are slim, who look fit and active and healthy, who are actually from the better off backgrounds, usually. And we're actually in real danger of having, for the first time ever, a generation who will not die from malnutrition, but actually are at risk of dying from overconsumption, and overconsumption of the worst types of foods that are available. So it's critical that we sort out and do all we can to make sure that all children have the opportunity to engage in sport and physical activity. And it's not just about competitive sport in schools. I mean, I value competitive sports, and I think they play a real and important role. But it's not just about competitive sports. It's about developing a range of opportunities that appeal to some of the least active children. Sport and physical activity should not just be for those who are naturally gifted. It's got to be for everybody. And that's why we've been investing £8.4 million in Change for Life school sports clubs, in addition to our £28 million investment in supporting the school games. Change for Life sports clubs are an innovative model that aim to engage the least active children. And we've already have 3,000 clubs in secondary schools, 4,500 in primary schools. They're vibrant, fun, and engaging. And they're changing the way that children experience sport in those vital early stages. And they're also helping children to gain fundamental physical literacy skills that will serve them well as they grow up. Independent evaluation has already shown a huge increase in the number of non-sporty children saying they choose to play sport every week. And it's these types of early interventions that I believe will help children make healthy choices as they move into adulthood. So this is the most effective way of making sport and physical activity a lifelong habit. Now, you may ask, what about the role of the NHS? And Fred talked about some of that in his address. Well, we know it's frankly not good in this respect. A recent survey of 169 GP practices in London showed that no GPs or practice nurses were aware of the Chief Medical Officer's revised physical activity guidelines. We've got a long way to go, but we all know what we want to see. We want to see a system whereby GPs routinely prescribe physical activity to treat ill health if it's appropriate. And as I say, that includes a lot of mental health conditions and problems. And we're working hard to address that. We know that giving brief advice to patients in primary care, for example, using the Let's Get Moving pathway, can be cost effective. And we're determined to make every contact count and equip healthcare professionals with the confidence and the skills to suggest healthier behaviours to patients. The NHS health check for patients over 40 provides another really important opportunity for healthcare practitioners to provide activity advice to patients. And alongside all of this, we've established a new National Centre of Excellence for Sports and Exercise Medicine with £30 million of capital funding to translate sports research into real benefits for patients. So, some progress, more to do if we're to seize this great opportunity, and I'm committed to working with ukactive to achieve all of that. So, to conclude, frankly, it's all too easy to feel overwhelmed by the scale of the challenge that we face. But being more physically active need not be difficult. We can all achieve our 150 minutes a week by making simple lifestyle changes. For many of us, relatively small changes in our busy daily schedules that we need to make if we're serious about tackling the silent killer of inactivity. I really do look forward to working with ukactive and its member organisations to promote active lifestyles, to increase participation and ultimately to ensure that we have a people that live longer, healthier and happier lives. Thank you.
Anna, thank you very much. The Minister has a busy day, you won't be surprised to hear, so we've got literally 5 minutes or so, just a couple of questions, maybe from the floor. Yeah, one there, and I'll come to you secondly. Yes. We haven't actually. Tell you what, go to the gentleman in the stripy shirt first,
Yes.
as he's nearest to you, and then we'll move to this one next. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Minister. I'm Chiquetta Fewster from Macmillan Cancer Support.
From the what, sorry?
Macmillan Cancer Support.
Ah, excellent. Yes.
Like a previous Chief Medical Officer, we're calling physical activity the wonder drug for people affected by cancer. But some research we did last year showed that only 7% of GPs are talking to their cancer patients about physical activity. And I've heard people say that it's going to take an awfully long time to turn around the position of health and social care professionals. And I wondered what your thoughts were about that.
Can I ask a question, actually? This survey you did, why do only 7% talk about physical activity? Why did the other 93% not mention it?
We don't know. We suspect it's because it's very busy, that a lot of GPs think it's just too big an ask for people. Yeah. But it is the wonder drug. It is a really, really important message. And shockingly, some GPs are actually telling their patients to go home and rest, which is the worst thing they can do.
No, it is a huge challenge, this. And it's also very complicated. I mean, I think one of the reasons why GPs are not as active as they should be in promoting activity as an alternative to taking a medicine is because, let's be honest about it, there are a number of people who go to their GP who frankly have a condition where they expect a pill. And if they don't get a pill or a tablet after their consultation, they feel in some way that they've been cheated. And I think that puts a pressure on GPs to feel that they've got to do that, as opposed to saying to somebody, you know what, the best thing you could do, and I mean, I know in my own constituency that some of my GPs actually do this, is they actually say, I'm going to give you a prescription to go along to Broxtowe Borough Council's leisure centre. You can go there and you can, in effect, spend this prescription on some great activities that they offer there, along, throughout the range. Low-level activity that gets you going and you build up to the more strenuous stuff. So it's a hard one to crack, but it's a message we all have to put out there at every opportunity and at every level as well. But we have to crack it. You're absolutely right.
Gentleman there, yeah.
Hi, Kevin Yates, Leisure Connection. It's actually a follow-on question from that one. As I understand, though, that GPs are rewarded on the basis of prescribing prescription as a drug and where they get their points, whereas prescription, and we're talking passionately about health and fitness, they don't get anything, or there's no way that they could do that as a reward incentive for the GP. Do you think that's fair?
Well, actually, to be fair, GPs, because they will now increasingly, they will control the budget. Actually, it's in the interests of GPs to keep their prescription budgets as low as they possibly can. So if you like, the financial incentive is to reduce the number of prescriptions that they are giving. I just think we need to change the whole, we need to change the whole way that as a society we look at this, so that GPs feel they have the confidence to say to somebody, especially somebody with low-level mental health problems, to say to them, actually what you need is, you need to get more active. And as I say, here's a prescription that will enable you to go to your local gym or your local leisure centre and health centre. And as we see this joining up in April, we'll see more of that coming out of the health and wellbeing boards, because borough councils, city councils, all the unitary and then the upper tier, as well as the borough and district councils, have got to work together more to improve the health of the people that they represent and serve.
You won't be surprised to hear there are loads of questions, because you
Sorry,
are the person in power,
sure.
effectively. So we'll whiz through them as quickly as is humanly possible. One at the back there, then a lady at the front here as well after that.
Thank you, Martin Cork from the East Region Physical Activity Alliance. Very simply, how do we ensure that physical activity, our wonder drug, gets safe passage on the public health outcomes framework in each health and wellbeing board? Without that, there are no funds, there's no focus. Unless we get that nailed, we don't go forward.
No, first of all, there are a number of statutory obligations and responsibilities that are put on them. Secondly, every local authority has its own director of public health. Then you've got the overarching role of Public Health England. And all of that coming together will make sure that those health and wellbeing boards are doing the things that they should be doing and delivering this sort of work. Okay. I hope that gives you some confidence.
Right, lady in the
Obviously not. You must contact me and I'll speak to you.
Hi.
Sorry, that sounds a bit threatening.
Sorry, interrupted.
She'll silence you.
Hi, I'm Fiona. I'm down here.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I'm a journalist and a personal trainer and a fitness writer. And this is quite a basic question, but I'm interested, change comes from the top down. Does the House of Commons have gym facilities, personal trainers? How often do people take time out to work out?
Yes, the House of Commons does have a gym. It's not the biggest of gyms. I'm not a member of the House of Commons gym. But you make a good point. I mean, we work very weird hours. And I mean, I know that politicians are not exactly a flavour of the month, especially if you've just been in the jungle for the last few weeks. But I mean, I think, I think Andy's here, isn't he? And I know that Andy would agree. We work weird hours, long hours. Actually, that means we should make more effort to make sure we're fit so that we can work those hours. And one of the big tricks that I have in my life is to make sure I can fit in my attempts to get fitter with a really bad working pattern. And also we eat peculiarly as well in the House of Commons as a result. And we're all actually very conscious of that. Because if you're not working regular hours, I'm sure this, if it's ever happened to you in your lives, you begin to snack, you grab and snack, and it's all bad. So you're right. I mean, politicians, it's no good preaching it. You've actually got to practice it. And I think we are aware of that.
So if we went to the gym at the House of Commons, would we be tripping over Ken Clark? And
Now, strangely enough, Ken is not a big user of the gym.
Right. There's one over there.
Great
We'll go for that one
follower of
there, and then
sport.
gent at the back, on the left. Yes, next one.
Hello, I'd like to take us back to the discussion with regards to the GP surgeries. My name's Mandisa, and I work for a small company called Marketing Wellness. We were founded about 18 months ago, and we work in the southeast area of London, teaching people about nutrition and promoting local gyms. Now, we wanted to start making partners with local GP surgeries, and about a year ago, we had a meeting with the practice managers, and out of all the practice managers in Southwark, only one decided to partner with us. So my question to you is, how do we ensure that small businesses can actually start getting in partnerships with the local GP surgeries to forward our mission?
No, and we know this is difficult. It's a difficult one to crack, and it's completely patchy. You'll find some GP surgeries in some CCGs like my own who take this very seriously. And what we now need to do is to make sure that we encourage them all to take this up, to understand the benefits of it and how they can work with the private sector. I mean, I think some of it is a bit of, perhaps, that they still have a bit of a prejudice against the private sector, I don't know. But I think you can do an awful lot, as I say. You have local councillors, you have local members of parliament, and I would urge everybody where there is a sticking point to go and make their voice heard to the people that represent them.
Last one, gentleman there.
Hi there, James Samuel, Leisure Industry Week exhibition. I was quite astounded by the amount of money it costs the NHS each year from costs, and also the 8.3 billion you said to physical inactivity. Also linking into what you said there, trying to get people to 150 minutes exercise a week. Starting from the very bottom, school children, how can we encourage that if there is a perception or misperception that school playing fields are being closed, sold off and becoming inaccessible?
No, I mean, governments of all colours have sold off playing fields, and we could have a good debate about whether that was the right or the wrong thing to do. I mean, the simple truth is it. I mean, and John gave an example. We've got a real problem with our children. And I have no doubt we have got to get into schools and do a better job at making sure that children spend more time on sport or other forms of physical activity. And it's certainly a conversation which I'm taking up with the ministers in the Department of Education, because it does concern me. We had a meeting about this in the department with Fred and other leaders from the sector. And I think that was the overwhelming message that came out of it. We need to do more in our schools to make sure that all our children, all of them, are more physically active. And if that's one of the things that I could achieve in the next 2.5 years, then I would be very happy with that.
Anna, I know we have to move on because it's a very full, busy day, and Andy Burnham has arrived and he has a busy schedule as well. But listen, congratulations, thank you very much for giving up half an hour or so today to be here. Would you put your hand together, please, for the Public Health Minister, Anna Soubry.